This is a story called The Children Who Were Left Abandoned with No Food or Money. The Millers are a young family of 10. Mum, Dad and 8 young children. Edith, aged 13, Ellie, aged 12, Grayson, aged 11, Colton, aged 9, Amelia and Emily, aged 8, Arthur, aged 6 and Addison, aged 4. The family have their struggles like most families, but they get by. All the kids are doing really well in school, even little Harrison, who has just started in the reception class. The family are well liked and quite popular. Then one day they all go on holiday to Primrose Valley for a week. However, on the last day they set off home after creating some amazing family memories. On their way there, they have a head-on car crash with a drunk driver. They all had to be cut out of the car by the fire brigade and rushed to hospital. Unfortunately, the kid's dad, George, died before they reached the hospital, leaving the kid's mum, Maria, to bring up 8 kids alone. As you can imagine, the whole family are devastated. Just a few months later, Maria, who was already struggling to feed and clothe her kids, met her new boyfriend called Mike. At first, he couldn't have been more perfect. However, after a few weeks, he started to show his true colours. He started to invite his friends round when Maria wasn't there. All they did was smoke, drink, take drugs and play loud music. He didn't care that the kids were upstairs trying to sleep. One night Edith decided that she'd had enough. She went downstairs, turned the music off and said, "We can't sleep because the music's too loud and we all have school tomorrow." Mike completely lost it and hit her in the face. Then he pinned her against the wall and said, "Who the hell do you think you were talking to? Who the hell do you think you are touching my stuff? Did you have permission to touch my stuff? Touch any of my stuff again and I'll beat the living daylights out of you. Now, get back upstairs and stay there." As you can imagine, Edith was petrified and she ran back upstairs crying. The next day when Edith came downstairs, her mum Maria asked her, "What happened to your face, Edith?" "Mike hit me because I turned his music off. He said that if I touched his stuff again, he'd beat the living daylights out of me." "That's not true, Edith, and you know it's not." "Why would she say that if it's not true?" "Because she's a liar and a troublemaker, that's why." "No, I'm not. You hit me and you shouldn't have done that because you're an adult and I'm a child." "Yeah, that's right. I'm an adult and you're a child and you'll do right to remember that." "Why would you say something like that when it's not true, Edith?" "But it is true, Mum. I wouldn't say something like that if it wasn't true, Mum. You taught me to always tell the truth no matter what, and I am. Just go to your room or go out with your friends. I don't care which you do. If you go out with your friends, please be in by 8 p.m. because you're at school tomorrow." Edith chose to go out with her friends, and as soon as she left, Maria said to Mike, "She's telling the truth, isn't she? I know my daughter and I know she wouldn't lie, not about something like this. I need to know that my kids are safe around you and that nothing like this is ever going to happen again." At that moment, Mike lost it and punched Maria really hard several times in the stomach. Then Maria said, "Now because of you I won't be able to work away next week because I know now that I can't trust you with my kids. Maria, I'm so sorry. I've never hit a woman or a child before. You can leave the kids with me and I promise you they'll come to no harm. Well, okay, but I hope for your sake you mean it, because I'll never forgive you if my babies come to any harm. Maria, I swear on my mum's grave that the kids will come to no harm. Okay, in that case, I'll let work know that I can do what they're asking of me. This could lead to a promotion and a massive pay rise. A few days later, Maria packed her bags and went to work in London for 5 days. The first night she was away, Mike had all his friends round and they spent all night drinking, smoking, taking drugs and playing extremely loud music, even though the kids were in bed and had school the next day. Edith went downstairs and said to him, Mike, please turn the music down. We can't sleep because it's too loud and we have school tomorrow. Mike just ignored her, so she turned the music down herself. Mike completely lost it, took off his bell and hit her with it. Ellie and Grayson heard her screaming and they went downstairs to see what was going on. Grayson grabbed Mike's arm and tried to get the bell off him, but then he turned on him and hit him with the bell. Both Edith and Ellie managed to get the bell off him and they grabbed the little kids and ran out of the house. When they came back a few hours later, Mike just told them to go to bed, but Grayson said, We're hungry and we haven't eaten all day. So, get to bed, all of you, unless you want another beating. The kids did as they were told and went to bed. The next day they all came downstairs and Edith and Ellie started getting breakfast ready for everyone. When Mike saw them and said, What the hell do you think you're doing? We're getting breakfast ready for us all, we're hungry. I don't care how hungry you are. All the food in this house belongs to me, and so does everything else in this house. Unless you have my permission, you don't eat or touch anything. Now get your uniforms on and get to school. The kids did as they were told, and when they came home, they got a huge shock. Mike had emptied everything out of the house. There wasn't a stick of furniture in any of the rooms. There was no food, no bedding, no TVs. There was nothing, not even the kids' toys. Every day for 5 days, the kids had to go hungry. They lived in darkness because there was no electricity. They went cold because there was no heating and it was the middle of winter. At night, they slept on the cold floor because Mike had ripped up all the carpets. However, one day at school, Edith's teacher noticed how dirty, neglected and hungry she was. The rest of the teachers had noticed the same with the rest of the family. Edith's teacher took her aside and asked her what was going on. She broke down in tears and told her everything and showed her bruises. The headmistress was informed and she called the police and social services. They were placed in temporary foster care overnight. The police got in touch with Maria and told her what had happened and she was heartbroken. The next day when she came home, she immediately went to see her kids to make sure they were okay. The foster carers agreed to look after them whilst Maria went to see what state her house was in. The police went with her in case Mike was there. When she saw the state of the place, she broke down in tears. The house was her childhood home. It was given to her by her parents, who decided to move into sheltered housing because the house was too big and too much for them to cope with due to poor health. Maria stayed with a friend and the foster carers agreed to look after the kids for a few weeks to give Maria a chance to sort out the house. In the meantime, Mike went to his parents' house and made their lives a nightmare. One day, Mike was passed out after a heavy night drinking and taking drugs with his friends. His parents went to the police station and told the police where he was. They went to their house immediately and arrested him. The next day he went to court and was sent to prison on remand. The next time he was in court, he pleaded not guilty to all the charges and the case was sent to trial and he was kept in prison on remand. At the trial, all 12 jury members found him guilty of all the charges against him. He was sent to prison for 20 years and the judge deemed him a very dangerous man. Whilst in prison, he caused constant trouble and he was constantly fighting, and the judge put an extra 10 years on his sentence in total. In the meantime, Maria and the kids were finally able to move back into their home. In time, they overcame their ordeal. About a year later, Maria met George and they started dating. The kids loved him and his son and 2 daughters. About a year later, they all moved in together. They thought it was more practical because George's house was only a 3-bed. Maria's house was a 20-bed mansion which her parents bought when her and her 6 siblings were kids. They went on to have 2 more daughters, Elsie Mae and Isabella Elizabeth, and 2 sons, Landon and Leighton. All quads. 18 months later, all the older kids absolutely adored them. The couple did eventually get married when the quads were 2, but thankfully they had no more kids as they already had 13 kids with all the kids combined. The end. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you like it. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to like, share, comment and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, please feel free to like, share, comment and to go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, peeps. Love yous. Bye.